Hello, hello. We're so happy to have you on with us today. This is a very exciting and a great honor to have you on with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot.
Yes. Well, this one, my gosh, will really kind of hit you hard too, because we all grew up dreaming that we could be astronauts or we should be astronauts, and that's what we want to do. And then we see this and go, "Ooh, okay, didn't think about that or didn't know about all this." And this gives us such a great insight into the lives and everything that goes into it. So it's got to be nice to kind of get this out there, even though there are so many just somber moments that kind of make you just think about everything that everyone up there went through.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I wasn't I wasn't a space nerd growing up. I didn't have that dream. I loved, I was raised on like space movies because like what filmmaker isn't? Because our best movies ever made are space movies. So I always experienced it from afar, and so to suddenly be inside this agency and then meet some of these incredible people, there were so many stories we could tell, and they're all really worth telling. And I think this really specific human factor and psychological implications angle is was interesting because it was about space, and it was also just about us, all of us, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Katie, it's got to be nice to kind of get this story out there because I'm sure there's people that probably didn't understand this whole other side to space travel, right?
Well, I really think so. And I think it's important, really, right at this moment, in that, it's gotten to seem so kind of normal that somebody might climb in a spacecraft, launch into orbit, maybe for a few minutes, maybe for a longer time, and different kinds of people, not just, different agencies, NASA and different countries' space agencies. So it seems really normal, but we are going further. We're going back to the moon and we'll be going on to Mars, and it is hard. I mean, it is really hard stuff. And I think that, it's certainly here in the States, the program belongs to the taxpayers. And I think it's important that they realize these are real humans doing these things and real humans just like them, which hopefully makes it more their space program.
Hmm. And was some of this footage kind of hard for you to watch or kind of to revisit? Because it seems like these were a little bit tough times, right?
You know, absolutely. There's I still cry actually probably every time I watch the movie, and it's been a real experience to watch it and have it going on with my son who was 10 at the time. He's now 23, graduated from college. He's a freelance photographer. He's an adult. And I learn something new every time we do one of these panels where people ask him questions. I'm like, you can actually see me during these panels. I'm always like listening.
Yeah.
And, so I get to kind of be with my 10-year-old and my 23-year-old at the same time, which is really pretty neat. And, life is so busy. And I've had this talk with a couple other astronauts as well, where, we feel honored and to have the job. And I think people really do their best at the job, but you do have to put a lot of things aside. And sometimes you don't stop to pick them up or to remember what that felt like. And so as a family, that's been an interesting process for us.
Well, and as a storyteller too, directing this it must have been kind of tough because there's so much to choose from, and then and where do you go and how do you take it there? Because this could have gone a lot of different ways, right?
Yeah, and we did, and we filmed. It's my first time making a film that's such an ensemble piece that has so
Mm.
many different subplots, and we filmed. There are many more subplots that didn't make their way into the film that are on the cutting room floor, not because they're less interesting. It's because for some reason the ones that are in the film did add up to something that felt like a unified story that had a sort of trajectory and an arc. But man, we spoke to some pretty amazing people, like scientists who have worked their whole lives to get this like one experiment to the space station, and all of them, by the way, around the idea of how to help astronauts cope with the psychological implications, right? And even just on that topic, there's an expert we spent a long time with just understanding how some of these future Mars missions are like sea voyages from like 120 years ago, right? The first voyages to the South Pole. something that also NASA is amazingly also looking at as a real kind of analog environment or analog experience to try to really draw conclusions from as to what it would feel like not to have real-time communication for such a long time. So it's, yes, there's a lot to play with. Hopefully what we ended up keeping in the film feels like a kind of a unified thing, but.
Mhm. And of course, the things that both of you do, people look up to very much, and they think, "Well, that's what I want to do." But it's certainly not easy to make a great film. But it's also incredibly hard to become an astronaut. But for those people that are looking up for you, for each of you, what kind of advice would you give to someone that wants to follow in each of your footsteps?
Often, like for astronaut stuff, people say,
Yes.
what should I do? What should I study to be an astronaut? And my answer is that you should study whatever really is your passion. The thing you really just want to know about. And right now to be a NASA astronaut, that does have to be in a science, technology, engineering, math field, but NASA isn't the only road to space these days. And I think that when I think about Ito and making this film and what it took working with NASA, and then explaining the movie to people like me and having us on board, if it wasn't the thing that he was passionate about, it never would have worked. Like, it's really, I think, advice not just for astronaut, but people do their best work when it's just something they realize they have a special path to show people something no one else can.
It's
Okay.
really nice. Thank you for saying.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you start, all this stuff they tell you as a filmmaker, as a documentary filmmaker, it's important. It's important to have the great access, right, and have the sort of exclusive access, and that takes a while. I want to add something a little different, which is it's important to maybe take a moment to think about whether you really want to make a movie, because once you commit, you're going to be working on it for a really long time. You're going to run around and raise funding, and then you're going to have to figure out a way how to film it and then edit it and then get it out into the world. And like, we all, once we start working on something, we make it our baby. But do you really love this thing? Will you want to be making this in 3 years? Because you're going to be making it 3 years from now. And there's a lot of stuff already in the world. If you're adding one more thing, do you want to add this to the world? Are you adding something new to the conversation? So I think those are maybe a few things to think about before you kind of embark on a filmmaking mission.
Mhm. And my co-host Drew Pearson, one of our great Dallas Cowboys, went in the Hall of Fame, caught the Hail Mary. Of course, we all know the Hail Mary term now, and we love to ask people their Hail Mary moments, which is that moment in your life or career where you just had to go for it and it worked out for you. Space had to invent it, but I don't know. I mean, right?
Do you mean me?
Yeah.
Um, definitely, definitely being a person that lived up there. I mean, I had 2 shuttle missions, and and they're on my jacket here. Um, I just couldn't believe we had to land. I was like, what are we doing coming home? We have so much like really important science, and also just figuring out how to do this because we're going to go further. And so I just didn't want to come home. And when I got to go up there and just spend so long, although not long enough, I will tell you. I mean, I know I cry a lot in the movie, right? But I am in general a pretty cheerful person that, yeah, I mean, I loved the mission up there. It doesn't mean I loved every minute. And doesn't mean it wasn't hard, but, just felt like a place that we're supposed to be. And I'm excited that Ito shows that a lot of us, we all do things different ways. We're all very different. Kayla Barron and I are different, and so and the other astronauts in the film.
Mhm. And Ida, what would you say your Hail Mary moment was?
It's such a great question. I want to say actually moving to New York which was kind of like my Mars mission, when I was really young when I moved and across the globe, and I did it. I had no family and no one here really. I knew a couple of people, one who had worked with my father and was really nice to me, but that was it. And so I just decided to like pack up my bags and move here. And I think in many ways, like making this film today is, the kind of under the hood, like it's not even the subtext because it's really just my own kind of baggage, but it is a little bit about that for me also. Is about making a new home in a completely and like just sort of new terrain and thinking and spending time on what it means to like leave your family behind, and do I still belong there, and where is home when I go back to visit. So all those things that ended up, I think, pretty prominent in the film, or part of that first rolling the dice Hail Mary move of moving to New York.
Yeah. Well, part of what I think people will see in this is his mindset is a huge thing. And we talk about this on the show a lot, is like you have to kind of put yourself fully in whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're feeling it or not. Is there something that each of you tell yourself that kind of keeps you on the right path even when things are tough, whether you're making a film or in space?
Actually, I want to share something that
Yes.
we've done some talking with Kayla after the movie has been out, but not very much. I mean, she's really busy. She's still an active astronaut. But something that really fascinated me was that there's a scene in the movie where really, no kidding, potential bad things are happening and they have to shelter in place, in the spacecraft they came up in. And someone asked her what that felt like, and I was like, oh, I want to know what that felt like. And basically what the summary would be, they're doing all the right things, all those things. But she was like, we just gotten up there and we were like, what? Are we gonna have to go home? So in the face of this like big deal thing, they're like, do we have to go home? And that's who she is. That's who most of us are, I think, in a big way.
Yeah. Well, is there something that you kept in mind up there that kind of like, I'm on a mission? Is there something, maybe a mantra that you told yourself, or just something that kind of kept you on that right path?
For me, I would say it's and the thing that I say when I used to run a lot, I just say, running my race, running my pace. And part of that is that, if I'd finish a race and I'd feel terrible. And then I'd find out, oh, it's because you ran fast. Like I need that kind of like encouragement. And so I would just, try to really make it, just remind myself I'm, doing these things, having my phone ring during your interview. Um, doing these things and just remind myself that, I may be a little different up there, but I have an important point of view to bring.
Yeah. And those are something that you tell yourself as well that kind of keeps you focused on that right path.
Yeah, I mean, and it's only from the last few years that those mantras kind of changed. But I now have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. And
Yeah.
which, by the way, this is how long it takes to make a movie. I didn't have kids when I started working on this.
My
And
gosh.
so, and so now when I'm frustrated, I can't, I'm like, ugh, nobody's taking my calls. I can't get through to whatever, or I'm not figuring out this part of the story. It's super cheesy, but I get to think about my kids, or like, look up some photos, or, now you have like the app from preschool, you're getting bombarded with photos anyway. So it could be a total distraction, but it actually helps me like quickly prioritize again and feel grounded again. And then I can go back. And it's a little bit like when you're trying to figure out the last puzzle piece, and you need to get out of the room and come back, and then you suddenly see it, right? So that's kind of what happens, is that then I can go back to whatever I was struggling with, and suddenly it's not as complicated.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all this wonderful thoughts with us, and great answers. And we really, really enjoyed the film. Can't wait for everybody to see it, and look forward to talking to both of you again very, very soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having
Hey,
us.
thanks a
Okay,
lot.
thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. It's very fun.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.